My name is Noah Carter, and the first time they called me Omelet Boy was the day I stopped believing I could ever fit in. It was a gray Monday morning at Lincoln High in a small town called Riverbend, and I was just trying to disappear into the crowd when I felt something cold and slimy explode on the back of my head. The hallway went silent for half a second, and then the laughter hit me like a wave. "Breakfast is served, Omelet Boy," Zach Miller shouted, his voice echoing off the lockers. Egg yolk slid down my neck into the collar of my only decent hoodie. Kids fumbled for their phones, someone whistled, and I heard it, that one line that always cut deeper than anything else. "You're not gonna cry to mommy and daddy, are ya? Oh, right, you haven't got any." The words dug into the part of me that still woke up some nights hoping my real mom would suddenly remember me. Zach's friends started chanting, Omelet Boy, and the name wrapped itself around me like a label I couldn't peel off. I wanted to swing, to scream, to do anything except stand there with my hair dripping egg. But my feet were glued to the floor and my throat locked up. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I ran. The chanting followed me down the hall, bouncing off the tile, Omelet Boy, like it was a song they'd been waiting to sing. By the time I burst through the side door into the cold air, my eyes were burning, but I refused to let a single tear fall where anyone could see. I walked home even though I was supposed to stay for math, every step feeling heavier than the last. When I got to the little rental house on Maple Street, I tried to slip in quietly, maybe go straight to my room, wash the egg out from my foster dad's saw. But Marcus was sitting at the cheap kitchen table, a half-drunk mug of coffee in his hand, work boots still on. He looked up the second the door clicked shut. His eyes went from my face to my hoodie and then to the dried egg on my hair. "Rough day?" he said, not as a question, but like he already knew the answer. "It's fine," I muttered, dropping my backpack before he could see my hand shaking. "Your hoodie says something different," he replied calmly. There was no judgment in his voice, just this deep, steady concern that made me uncomfortable. Like a light shining into a room I preferred to keep dark. "I'll change. I'm going to be late tomorrow if I don't finish my homework," I mumbled, trying to brush past him. But he stood up slowly, not blocking me, just turning, so I had to look at him. "Noah, sit for a second," he said, pulling out a chair. I hesitated, every part of me wanting to keep moving, to not feel anything, because feeling meant breaking. But something in his voice made me drop into the chair anyway. He studied my face like he was reading a page. "You know you don't have to pretend with me, right?" he said. I shrugged. "It's just kids messing around," I lied. The words tasted bitter. "Kids messing around only bruises on jackets," he replied, nodding toward my shoulder where the fabric was stretched and faintly stained from where Zach had shoved me into the locker last week. I wanted to scream that it didn't matter because nothing ever changed, because foster homes come and go and kids like me are just passing through. But instead I said, "Can we not do this, Marcus? I'm tired." He watched me for another long moment, like he was deciding whether to push or let it go. Then he grabbed his keys from the table. "Fine," he said, "but tomorrow I'm driving you. The gate's crazy in the mornings, and I don't want you walking alone right now." "I can walk," I argued automatically. "I'm not asking," he said, and that was the end of it. The next morning the sky was bright and cruel, like even the sun was in on the joke. Marcus drove in silence for most of the ride, the old truck rattling as we turned onto the road toward Lincoln High. I could already feel my stomach knotting. As we pulled up near the front gate, I saw them, Zach and his crew leaning against the fence, like they'd been waiting for a show. "I'll be fine," I said quickly, reaching for the door handle. Marcus glanced at the group and then back at me, his jaw tightening for a second. "Remember, you don't owe anyone your silence," he said. It was a weird thing to say, and I didn't really get it, so I just nodded and opened the door. The moment my feet hit the pavement, I heard it again. "Well, well, look who showed up, the man of the hour. It's Omelet Boy," Zach called out. The group laughed. "What's up? No apology note today? No extra eggs?" I kept my eyes on the sidewalk, my heart hammering, my chest tight. I could feel Marcus watching from the truck, but I didn't want him involved. This was my humiliation, my problem. "Hey, I'm talking to you," Zach said, stepping in front of me, blocking my path. For a second, time stretched thin. I could hear the buzz of distant traffic, smell the exhaust from Marcus's truck, feel the weight of every time I'd stayed quiet, every time I'd pretended I didn't care. And all of it funneled into one hard, sharp thought. I can't live like this forever. I swallowed, said nothing, and tried to slip past. But in that moment, before anything else could happen, before I even understood how close I was to breaking, something shifted that would change everything. If this beginning of Noah's story pulled you in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. The moment everything changed didn't look dramatic from the outside. There were no slow-motion punches or epic soundtrack, just Zach reaching for my backpack strap and a blur of movement from the corner of my eye. Before his hand could yank me backward, Marcus was there. I don't even know when he got out of the truck. 1 second he was behind the wheel, the next he was between us, calm but solid. "That's enough," he said, not loud, but with a weight that made even the guys behind Zach go quiet for a heartbeat. Zach tried to puff himself up. "Who are you, man? His babysitter?" he sneered, half laughing, half testing. "I'm the one who's telling you to step back," Marcus replied, his voice still low, but his body angled just enough that if you knew what to look for, you could tell he wasn't afraid. Zach took a step forward, hand brushing my shoulder as if to prove he could, and then something I couldn't fully follow happened. Marcus shifted his stance, lifted Zach's wrist with controlled precision, turned his weight, and suddenly Zach was off balance, stumbling back without actually being thrown. His friends laughed nervously, not sure if they should be impressed or offended. "Yo, relax, it was a joke," one of them muttered, trying to save face. Marcus didn't look angry, just completely in control. "Walk away," he said, his eyes on Zach, and for the first time I saw it, a flicker of doubt in Zach Miller's face. He scoffed, shoved his hands into his pockets, and backed off with a muttered threat about "seeing you later." As they moved away, the noise of the schoolyard slowly returned. I stood there frozen, adrenaline buzzing in my veins. "How did you do that?" I asked, my voice shaky. Marcus glanced over at me. "Walk you to the gate?" he asked, first making sure I was moving. Once we were away from the crowd, I repeated it. "Seriously, how did you do that? The way you moved his arm, he couldn't do anything." Marcus hesitated for a moment, like he was stepping into an old, familiar room he didn't like visiting. "I learned a long time ago that rage is a fire that burns you from the inside out," he said, which was not the answer I was expecting. I frowned. "What is that, some Mr. Miyagi quote or something?" I asked, half annoyed, half curious. He almost smiled. "It's experience," he said simply. Then he looked at me again, really looked. "If you want, I can teach you how to protect yourself, how to move, how to hit if you have to, but only on one condition." That got my attention. A part of me that had been screaming since the first egg hit my head sat up straight. "What condition?" I asked. "You don't use anything I teach you until I say you're ready," he answered. I laughed in disbelief. "What if I need it before then?" I shot back. "What if he corners me again? What if—" Marcus raised his hand, calm. "That's the deal, Noah. Yes or no." The silence stretched between us, and in it I saw flashes of Zach's face, the hallway, the yoke sliding down my neck, the sound of kids chanting. I imagined his nose breaking under my fist, imagined the silence that would fall if I finally snapped. "Fine," I said, anger and desperation twisting inside me. "Yes." "We start tomorrow," Marcus said, and that night, for the first time in a long time, I went to sleep not just replaying what had happened, but imagining what might happen next. The days that followed blurred into a mix of sore muscles and unfamiliar focus. Every afternoon after school, we drove to a quiet, empty park on the edge of town near the river where almost no one went. Marcus would set down an old gym bag and we'd begin. He didn't start with punches, which irritated me. Instead, he made me stand, breathe, feel where my weight was. "Again," he'd say, making me repeat the same simple movement of stepping and turning until my legs ached. "This is stupid," I snapped more than once. "I need to learn how to hit, not how to walk." "If you can't control your body, you'll never control your power," he would answer, unbothered by my frustration. Eventually, he showed me how to block, how to step aside instead of straight back, how to use someone's weight against them without looking like I was doing anything, and finally, how to strike. Quick, efficient, no wasted motion. With every session, I could feel something changing inside me. My posture, my breathing, the way I walked down the hall at school. Even when I tried not to show it, it was there, and people could sense it. A couple weeks later, Zach tested that. It was between classes. I was at my locker when he slammed it shut with his palm, leaning in close. "Heard you got yourself a little karate coach, Carter," he sneered, his breath hot with the smell of cheap energy drink. His friends gathered, hungry for a show. "Come on, Omelet Boy, show us your moves," they jeered. The old chant started again, quieter this time, but still there. Something hot and familiar surged up my spine. My fists clenched before I could stop them. I could see it perfectly, how I would shift my weight, use what Marcus had taught me, one move to break Zach's balance, one more to break his nose. I felt ready, no, more than ready. I stepped back just enough to make space, my body poised, my heart pounding. "Come on, do something," Zach barked, his forehead almost touching mine. "Come on, show me what you got." For a heartbeat, everything else disappeared. It was just me, him, and all the nights I'd gone to bed angry. Then, like a bucket of ice water, Marcus's voice cut through my brain. "Not until I say you're ready." My jaw tightened, my teeth grinding, but instead of moving, I exhaled and lowered my hands. The disappointment in the crowd was a physical thing. "That's what I thought," Zach laughed, shoving my shoulder as he turned away. "All talk, Omelet Boy, all bluff." As they moved off, my chest burned like someone had set a match to it. After school, I stormed into the house, barely dropping my bag before snapping. "You said you'd tell me when I was ready. I'm ready now." Marcus looked up from the kitchen counter where he was chopping vegetables for dinner. "You've learned a lot," he said evenly, "but readiness for a fight is not the same as readiness for what comes after." His calm made me angrier. "He pushed me in front of everyone. He humiliated me. I could have ended it, and you're the one stopping me," I shouted, pacing. "They think I'm weak. They're laughing at me all over again." "So let them laugh," Marcus replied quietly. "Their opinion doesn't define your strength." "That's easy for you to say," I snapped, slamming my fist into the back of a chair. "One move, that's all it would have taken. I could have smashed his nose. Every selfie he takes for the rest of his life, he'd remember me." My breathing was ragged, wild. Marcus stepped closer, not flinching at my anger. "You are not ready," he repeated. "You have power, yes, but your anger still blinds you." "You're never going to let me fight him, are you?" I yelled, feeling the betrayal cut deep. "Tell me the truth." There was a long, heavy pause. "No," he said quietly. "I won't let you fight him driven by this," he gestured to my shaking hands. "I knew it," I spat. "You lied to me. All of this, the training, the lectures, it's all just a way to keep me soft." He inhaled slowly, and for the first time I saw something crack in his expression. Not anger, but pain, old and buried. "You think I don't understand wanting to fight," he said, his voice lower now. "You think I don't know what it feels like to wish you could hurt someone so bad they never forget your face. When I was younger than you, my father died. My mother remarried a man who drank more than he worked. He hurt her, over and over, and I hated him so much that one night I let that hate take over. I swung at him with everything I had." He paused, his eyes distant. My mother stepped between us. I didn't see her until it was too late. The room felt suddenly smaller. "I live with the sound of that moment every day, Noah. Don't you dare tell me I don't understand. I'm trying to keep you from making a choice you can't take back." I swallowed hard, the fury still alive in my chest, but now tangled with something else, a weight I didn't know how to carry. "So what? I just let him win?" I whispered harshly. "It's not about Zach," Marcus said. "It's about you. The moment you let that anger take over, you've already lost, no matter how hard you hit." I turned away, my world splitting between the justice I wanted and the warning he was giving me, not knowing that soon I'd have to choose which one defined me. If you're hooked on Noah's journey and want to know how he faces Zach next, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss Chapter 3. By the time everything came to a head, the air at Lincoln High felt like it was charged with something I couldn't quite name. Rumors had leaked that I had backed down from Zach, even after getting secret training. The story twisted every time it was retold. Some versions had me crying, some had me begging. None of them were true. But truth doesn't matter much in a place where hallways work like echo chambers. I walked through them with my shoulders squared in a way I hadn't before. But inside, I was split. One half of me hearing Marcus's voice about control and fire, the other half replaying every laugh, every shove, every Omelet Boy chant like a highlight reel of humiliation. It all finally collided on a Friday afternoon, the kind where everyone is restless and loud, desperate to escape. I was at my locker shoving books into my bag when I felt that familiar weight of eyes on the back of my neck. "Well, if it isn't the legendary Omelet Boy!" Zach's voice rang out, louder than usual. He'd chosen his stage carefully, the hallway between the gym and the cafeteria. Crowded, but slightly bottlenecked, perfect for an audience. I shut my locker slowly, my heartbeat steady, but strong. "You ready for round 2? He called, stepping closer. His friends fanned out behind him, phones already out. A couple of other kids sensed what was coming and started recording too. This time, I didn't rush to move away. I just turned and looked at him. Really looked. At the acne under his bravado, the faint dark circles under his eyes, the way his jaw clenched too tight, like he was always grinding his teeth. "Hey, I'm talking to you," he said, shoving my shoulder, expecting me to stumble or lash out. Instead, I simply took a small step back to keep my balance, the way Marcus had drilled into me, controlled, deliberate. "There he is, now he can hear me," Zach sneered to the crowd. "Turns out he's still soft." The word soft hit the hallway like bait. A couple of kids snickered on cue. The old anger flickered inside me, but it felt different now, like a fire behind glass, hot, dangerous, but not in control. I took a slow breath, hearing Marcus in my head. The moment you let that anger take over, you've already lost. I could fight him, that was the truth. I knew where his weight was, how off balance his stance was. I could see the opening in his ribs when he stepped in. I could chart the exact angle I'd need to make him hit the floor and stay there. And for a second, I wanted that so badly it scared me. But then another thought cut through, sharp and clear. Winning this way would bind me to him forever. Every time he looked in a mirror, he'd see my damage, and I'd see him every time I closed my eyes. I was tired of carrying him with me like that. "You feel bigger now?" I asked suddenly, my voice calm, almost conversational. The question caught him off guard, the hallway quieted by a fraction. "Would you say?" He frowned, stepping even closer. "You get your power from picking on kids smaller than you. Does that make up for something you're missing, Zach?" There was a flicker in his eyes, an almost imperceptible flinch. I pressed on, not cruel, just honest in a way no one had been with him. "Think about it, man. You're what, on your third year of 10th grade now? A couple of kids blinked, their gazes flicking to each other. This was something everyone knew, but no one mentioned out loud. Your biggest achievement is cracking eggs on a foster kid in the hallway? That what you want your highlight reel to look like? The quiet in the corridor deepened, laughter turning into an uneasy silence. You think that's funny? He snapped, his voice tightening. You think you're better than me now? A week ago, if he had asked that, I would have swung. Not because I thought I was better, but because I was drowning in the need to prove I wasn't trash. Now I just looked at him and finally understood what Marcus meant. A week ago, I was ready to kill you, I said, not loudly, but clearly enough that the words carried. A murmur rippled through the crowd. For real, I lay awake at night planning it out in my head. Every punch, every way to make sure you never forgot my name. Zach's jaw twitched, maybe with fear, maybe with anger, maybe with both. But then I realized something. You're not worth that kind of space in my head. You're not worth my future, or a record, or my mom's disappointment, or Marcus's heartbreak. You're not worth me becoming the thing I hate. I could feel my hands steady, my breathing calm, the fire inside me still there, but contained. For a heartbeat, nobody spoke, nobody moved. The balance of the entire hallway hung in that fragile silence. Zach's face flushed red, not the smug crimson of control, but the blotchy color of someone who's suddenly been seen too clearly. He reached into his backpack in a jerky motion and pulled out something small and white. I knew what it was before he even raised his arm. Another egg, of course. His last attempt at repeating the joke that had worked so well the first time. He hurled it at me with all the force he could muster. But whether his aim was off from anger, or my training had quietly changed the way I stood, the egg sailed past my shoulder and exploded harmlessly against the locker behind me, yolk dripping down the metal instead of my skin. A small, stunned laugh escaped from someone in the crowd, then another, not at me, but at him. The spell he'd held over this place cracked right down the middle. I didn't flinch, I didn't move toward him, I just shook my head once. "That's the best you've got," I said softly. "I'm done letting you write my story, Zach." And then I did the one thing he couldn't control. I turned my back on him and walked away. Not in a rush, not running, just walking. Shoulders relaxed, steps steady. For the first time in years, I felt light, like I wasn't dragging a past full of other people's words behind me. Behind me, I heard someone clap once, then twice, then a small scattering of applause that grew just enough for Zach to hear it too. I didn't need their approval to know that I'd won. But I won't lie, it felt good to know that Omelet Boy no longer meant the kid covered in egg. It meant the kid who didn't burn his future down just to get even. That night, sitting at the kitchen table, I told Marcus what had happened. He listened quietly, then nodded once, pride in his eyes, not because I'd humiliated Zach, but because I hadn't let rage control me. In that moment, I finally understood his story not as a warning meant to cage me, but as a gift meant to free me. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not swing, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to choose who you become next. If Noah's journey spoke to you, reminded you of your own battles, or gave you a new way to see strength, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so more people can hear stories like this and remember they're not alone.